This is Podstar Step Pop-Up Studio 2024. Busy afternoon, lots of interesting guests, and we have another one, Stefania, one of the panelists, one of the speakers at the Step conference. Stefania is advocating for the mindfulness in leadership. Stefania, welcome to Podstar Pop-Up Studio. How are you today? And how was your panel?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We had 3 amazing entrepreneurs. So we were tapping into the topic of mindfulness for leadership from tech startup perspective. So it was amazing. Thanks for asking.
So what is the background behind mindfulness in leadership, and how this topic becomes or integrates into, the startup environment?
The interesting thing when you become a founder, and I have done a transition from corporate becoming an entrepreneur, is that you have all the pressure on you in a really fast-paced environment like startups. So you need to balance that need for achievement and giving results to your investors and having a positive impact on your team, while you still keep your mind working at the high capacity and you take care of your well-being. It may sound at the beginning that mindfulness and slowing down is not what you want as a founder, but the thing is that in the long run, if you don't take care of that, you're going to fail. I was sharing one statistic on the panel that 70% of startup founders have mental health issues.
That's right.
And 80% out of those, they never share their struggles, either with the co-founders, their teams, or their families. And yes, we can be high achievers 1 year without taking care of our well-being, but we will fail. So that's how it is linked to founders. But then as a leader, you are not only taking care of your health, you need to take care as well on the work environment, the work culture, and making sure that the work culture is enhancing the well-being of the employees. Otherwise, they are not going to perform in the long run as well.
Totally. I wanted to ask you, just on the way while you were responding, so why do you think it happens with startups? Why these statistics are so horrifying about the mental health issues? And can you comment on those statistics a little?
I've been there. I've worked that challenges, and I work with the startups as well. So number one, you don't get high funding at the beginning, so you are doing multiple tasks, and you are juggling many different areas: the content, the finances, the sales. So you have an overload of things that you are overlooking at. This is number one. Second, the entrepreneurial path is quite lonely. So it's not that you go to a company every day that you check in and you have all your colleagues there and you can have a break for coffee. As a leader on a startup, your journey is quite alone because you are responsible of your team as well, and you need to bring them the full energy. So those are really important when it comes to mental health. And of course, if you have free time, if that is even a thing that a startup founder has, you're always thinking on how can I use this half an hour really to enhance my startup, to bring more revenues to the table. You don't really want to spare half an hour to work on your mindfulness. So I think those are the main 3 challenges: multitasking, the loneliness of the entrepreneurial life, and the pressure of performing that we at some point, most of us, we fall, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I say, and how can mindfulness, and what does mindfulness sort of mean from that perspective? How can this help, let's say, leaders tackle this issue or decrease the amount of, let's say, mental health issues?
Mindfulness helps you being fully present in the moment instead of being into that automatic pilot state of mind where you are doing things mindlessly,
That's
automatically.
Right. Yeah.
So with mindfulness, you are going back to your body, taking charge, and slowing down. A bit of stress is good in our life because it gives us the adrenaline that we need. But if we are always on that kind of speed survival mode, our cortisol levels really raise up. and we don't have mental clarity. We are responding and reacting rather than thinking, and that's absolutely important as a leader on a startup. You need to have mental clarity.
How do you help leaders to realize that? How do you help them to get on that mindful path, let's say?
Number one, usually, is by numbers. They need to understand that well-being is not a waste of money, but an investment with high return on investment. And there are many studies that show that, for example, one of the panelists was sharing today, each $1 that you invest in well-being has a safe impact on the company of $6. So I think the first step is really, it comes with awareness towards the benefits of mindfulness on profits and revenues, because we are talking numbers, and the startup is not going to listen to you if you say you are going to be more relaxed at the end of the day. You are going to have more stress.
Yeah.
So number one is awareness on how this has an impact on the revenues. This is number one.
You have any numbers to share from that perspective? How can, let's say, a mentally, let's say, drained leader really impact his own revenue? You have any numbers to share?
Well, I was sharing already the high amount of mental health issues, and we can even link that with the number that 80% of the startups don't make it after the second year. I'm not saying that it is 100% correlated, but obviously if you don't have mental clarity, your startup is going to fail. And then the second number that I was sharing is that $1 of investment has a $6 saving in your company. You can turn it around. If you don't invest, you are going to lose $6 for every $1 that you don't invest in well-being.
Interesting. And what are those, let's say, methods or techniques that make founders, leaders become more mindful? How can they start, practicing this path of being more self-aware from that perspective?
There is not one solution that works for everyone.
That's
My
right.
advice is always explore that works for you. I do really believe in the power of breath. This is a free tool that we have. And just learning different pranayama in the world of, we call it pranayama in the world of yoga, breathing exercises are super powerful. In the times when I was working in Nokia, I used to do breathing breaks of 10 minutes, and it was like if they were switching an on and off button. I was so revitalized after that.
That's
So
right.
it does really give you a boost of energy, mental clarity, focus, sharpness. So breath is really important. But you can even go for a slow walk. So anything that brings you back to your body, if you go for a walk but you are running because you want to finish the walk quick, you are not going to have the same impact. So slowing down, and it can be either going for a walk, maybe some people want to draw something. So it's anything that makes you go back to your body.
So practicing mindfulness is one big step towards becoming let's say a more functional leader. Let's say, does it make a difference whether you're a startup leader or you, let's say, a corporate leader? Do you work with corporate leaders as well?
Yes, definitely. I would say that the startup founders have more challenges in the sense that they have less resources to tap in.
Yeah.
So if you have an investment, you want to use it to grow the team, maybe, instead of taking care of your own well-being. But those are different. As a big corporation, you are also going to manage, imagine if you are in the marketing department, as it was my case, you are going to manage bigger budgets,
Yeah.
you have bigger teams. So it's going to be a different challenge. It is true that the startups
Stressful.
live in a very fast-paced environment where everything is changing, and you need to be more resilient.
For sure. And so my next probably point would be, because you're also working with leaders not only from the perspective of being mindful about their let's say mental health, but also you're working in terms of the personal branding.
Yes.
So, and I think these topics are very much linked to each other from the perspective that when you're probably mindful about yourself, you do find a space in your fast-paced environment how to build and how to think about your personal brand. Let's talk about the personal branding and how, let's say, what are the key challenges for startup leaders or corporate leaders to start working on their personal branding? What do they face?
There are two different situations. When it is inside a corporation, there needs to be an alignment with the purpose of the company. So you make sure that your visibility is to support both your career growth, but also the goals of the organization. So you are more of a tool for the company to get visibility because, for example, talking about numbers, when you share something in a platform like LinkedIn through your personal brand, you get a 600% more visibility than if you do it through your company page on LinkedIn. So this is within the corporate world, talking about big companies now. If you are a startup founder, there are many other things that you need to build. You need to build trust.
That's right.
Investors, partners, clients, etc. You need to build visibility for your startup. You don't have the power of a corporation, for example. You don't have the power of any of the big giants that we have here, right? So you really need to use the power of your personal brand to build that trust, to give visibility to your startup, to be able to be on a panel and to network. And it is funny that in a world that is becoming more tech-oriented, we are going to be connecting more and more with the emotional side of the people. People are going to buy from your startup as well if they click with you as a person and as a founder.
For sure.
An example is the founder of Headspace, which is a meditation app. He's a monk and he really uses his personal brand to convey the message of his startup. So somehow you believe on the startup because you also believe on the founder. So this is how it is connected. So to summarize, corporate, you are more of the vehicle to convey the company message. As a startup founder, you are the one that really needs to give the visibility to your startup.
And why do leaders not start their personal branding journey? Why do you think? What prevents a lot of them not to do that?
It can be number one, budget, because they think it's going to be too costly.
Right.
Maybe this is a mindset because there are many ways in which you can start your personal brand visibility with low budgets as well. Second, something that a lot of people tell me is, I don't want to show off. I don't want to be talking like if I was a celebrity because I am not.
What is behind that? Is it like an imposter syndrome kind of thing?
Well, I think it can be in some cases. I think in some others it's personality. So introverts don't really want to be on the spotlight. And I always reply to them, it's not about you, it's about your startup. It's not about you, it's about the purpose. So forget it. People are not going to see you because they want to see you. In reality, you are not so important. And this is something that we have to remind ourselves. It's not about you, it's about the message that you are transmitting, it's about the impact that you are having, it's about your startup. So I think that's the second point. It may be a bit of imposter syndrome as well. Some people don't want to be in front of a camera. They tell me, but Stefania, I am nobody in my sector. Why should I be on a podcast? Or why should I be on a stage? I am nobody to lead an audience. So I would say that those may be the main two constraints. And of course, as a startup, the third may be that they are really focused on productivity, revenues, the team. And then the personal brand sounds like something that you can, it's not a must-have.
Yeah.
Right? There are three things that you need: a sales team, an IT developer, my website, my social media, the content. Personal branding is not a priority. Sometimes.
No, I totally agree with you. I wanted to ask you, straight after you mentioned about not even an imposter syndrome, but when you're saying, like they say, I'm nobody in my space, or who am I to talk about this? Actually, an imposter syndrome kind of signs. But my question to you, do you think you need to reconvince people who are not ready? Do you think media is for everyone?
I do think that is for everyone, as long as you know your purpose and why you are doing it. So that's how, for me, mindfulness and personal branding are so linked, and I work in both fields.
That's right.
Because it needs to come from within. Once you are clear on why you are doing it, media is for everyone. I have so many examples of people who didn't want to be in front of a camera because of ethical background, family situations, and now they are not only creating content as pictures, but they are creating content in video.
How did you help them to overcome that?
I think it's by being their companion with empathy. You cannot force the people to do anything that they don't want. They may not be ready yet.
Yeah.
But of course, there is a lot of listening and giving a different perspective. I am also an example of a person that is not fully extroverted. I would say that I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
And my first talk in front of an audience, now I remember that and I laugh. And thankfully, there was no social media at that time. There is no recording of that talk because I was so nervous. But there was something higher for me. I really wanted to transmit a message. So I was not even thinking on, I'm not going to look good. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to speak in front of an audience. That was not even a question for me. And I can assure you that I was absolutely tense. I was like almost as a robot. So as long as you reconnect with your purpose and the objective that you have, is when you are going to be able. And of course, as we were saying before, knowing which are the benefits that is going to give you, because it's not about, okay, it's my purpose, but I can do my purpose in silence as well. But if you know the benefits, you are going to actually start doing that. And I have success stories from my clients that are mind-blowing, really, on how they took the leap in a very short period of time, and they surprised me.
Interesting. Could you share a few, let's say, leaps that happened probably because people started, investing into their personal brand and reconnected with their purpose? I like this message, reconnecting with the purpose, and then start articulating and transmitting this purpose rather than thinking that you are constantly displaying yourself as, as a personality, which is nothing wrong at the end of the day as well, right?
Okay, one of the examples is, I need to see how can I share that example, because there is quite a lot of privacy behind that and it's quite personal to this individual. But let's start by sharing that this person, I don't want to say if it is a man or a woman, I'm not going to disclose any confidential information. This person didn't have a LinkedIn account.
Yeah.
And didn't want to have a LinkedIn account under his or her name.
Yeah.
Didn't want to have that visibility at all. Imagine, not even with a name.
Yeah.
And we were working on the content strategy, and we said, okay, let's create a content strategy, and then you can decide which person on your team is going to do that. Of course, I was advising you as a founder are the person really that should have that visibility and that credibility. 1 year after that conversation, this person is creating videos weekly, is talking in front of the camera, of course has created the LinkedIn profile with the pictures and everything. And if you see this person, again, he or she,
it doesn't matter,
you wouldn't believe that didn't want to create even a LinkedIn profile, because it's so natural in front of the camera. Again, reconnected with the purpose, reconnected with the understanding that this is going to have an impact on the organization as a founder, and of course understood that the first step is never perfect, but practice makes perfect. So the first video is not going to be phenomenal, but the second it will be better, and it is enjoying creating content. You can already see the joy on the face of this person.
That's great. And how do you help people to reconnect with purpose? Because I think that's the core, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a topic that is really close to my heart. I was 3 weeks ago delivering a talk on TED, and it was connected with purpose and how leadership is evolving towards not only enhancing the leader's purpose, but also enabling the team's purpose. Some people get clarity on their purpose very early in life. Also, purpose is something that keeps evolving as we grow. Our purpose may not be the same when we are 20, but when we are 40 and above. It may change due to different circumstances. For me, when I guide people on their purpose, there are a couple of things that we need to look at. One is, which are those skills that you naturally have? Going back to your childhood is so powerful. I realized that I started doing theater when I was 4 or 5 years old, not like a pro. We did that every summer. So that is really connected with my passion for the public speaking and being in panels, moderating, etc. And second, that I usually was given roles as philosopher, teacher, so somebody else was seeing that on me. If I look back to that on my childhood, I was having fun with that, and I do believe on purpose linked to joy, doing something that you really like. So, number one, your skills, something that you like, but there needs to be something that society always needs. Otherwise, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
And of course, on a next higher level, having a positive impact on others. I don't believe on having a purpose and then everything is going to be easy. That's not true. But definitely there is going to be the power inside that is going to make you have motivation on the days that you don't feel well, that you think you've lost it. So that's the guiding light. But for me, those are the elements. So it's not just about something that I'm passionate about. There needs to be a mix of all these things. Also, if you are passionate, there is a market need, but you are not good at that, you may not find a way of doing it.
Interesting. So that's why I think they work with somebody who can coach you, or who can at least share that conversation or share the empathy, as you mentioned earlier, to support you on, this thinking is very important. And I'm really glad that STEP conference is offering topics like mindfulness nowadays. I have a few people who are linked to psychology and, all sorts of areas that are really important for entrepreneurs. I think STEP overall platform is evolving, is getting more mature, bringing in people from all sorts of areas to help startups grow rather than, not to continue after year 1, year 2, but to help them fly and to help them evolve, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And on that note that you are mentioning about the STEP, I launched a startup on well-being. Can't remember, it looks like in another life. I think it was 8 years ago. And at that point, I went as a startup to the STEP conference. And I don't think there was any other well-being startup at that point. And funny enough, now is the 5th year that I'm moderating a panel in a special section of STEP on well-being. So imagine how this has grown and how STEP is really listening to the market to know that they need to have a space for wellness, because this is a field that is growing as well. It's really interesting. The topics on the well-being stage really show that STEP knows what the founders need, not only to as a startup topic, but really for the founders.
No, absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. It's been great. I enjoyed a few messages and reconnecting with purpose, and probably removing a lot of attention from your personality, but thinking about the purpose of you transmitting the actual message towards there is something that can help you as a leader, you as a founder, on your personal branding, or I call it a media journey.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've just concluded and repeated the message that you told me. Thank you very much. That was very interesting.
Thank you, Lara.